Okay, in this lesson, we're talking about what Incoterms will you choose. We're going to talk about what they are and why they're important. We're going to talk about the most common Incoterms, and we're going to talk about who decides. So, what are Incoterms and why are they important? Incoterms are rules and terms that buyers and sellers use in international and domestic trade contracts. Soon we're going to see a diagram that will illustrate it more clearly. The factory will ask you, so you need to know. And the freight forwarding companies will also ask you what your Incoterms are, so you need to know. Incoterms go in hand with pricing. So usually a rookie would just talk about, price in terms of US dollars per piece. But an experienced professional will always talk about price plus the Incoterm. So for example, the most common one you'll hear is like $5 FOB Ho Chi Minh City. Okay, so we're going to explain that. So here you see an infographic that explains Incoterms very well. So follow along with me. Start on the far left, and the first yellow up in the upper left-hand corner, you see EXW, which stands for X Works. I'm going to explain that. Then come down, 1, 2, 3, to FOB, which stands for Free On Board. That's the second most common Incoterm. Then go to all the way to the bottom where you see DDP, which stands for Delivered Duty Paid. So now look at the very top where you see the process of logistics, of shipping. So on the far left, you have the seller, which is the factory. And then the factory has to deliver it to the port, like in Ho Chi Minh City, where it's then loaded onto the boat in Ho Chi Minh City. Then the boat travels across to the ocean to, say, like Los Angeles port, where it's offloaded and in the Los Angeles port and goes through customs. And then it has to be trucked from Los Angeles to, say, your warehouse in Las Vegas, where you, as the buyer, will then take receipt. So that's the freight forwarding companies, the logistics companies are providing this service of getting the goods from the factory to your warehouse. And let's look at X Works. So you can see how the blue bar represents the responsibility of the factory. So the factory is responsible for everything all the way up to the factory. That's why it's called X Factory. So the buyer, who's you, has to pick up the goods, X Works, at the factory. That's one of the most simple ones, the simplest Incoterm to understand. Then you go Free On Board. So go down 3 levels and you see Free On Board, and you can see that the blue line goes all the way up to the port in Ho Chi Minh City. So that's why it's called Free On Board. So the factory, if your price is on FOB terms, the factory is responsible to deliver the goods all the way until it's free on board the ship. And then the freight forwarding company takes responsibility for it from that moment all the way to when it delivers to you. And then the very last one at the bottom, delivered duty paid. The factory is responsible to get the goods to the port on the ship across the ocean into the Los Angeles port to pay the duties to the US government and then deliver it to your warehouse. That's why it's called delivered to your warehouse with the duty paid. And there's other terms like landed duty paid and CIF. So you'll hear those Incoterms as well. Actually, well, there's CIF. You can see it right up there. CIF is cost, insurance, and freight, and it means that the factory is only responsible up to the port of Los Angeles, but they're not responsible for unloading and getting through customs and paying duties. So you have a lot of options. So who will decide? You do. And that's why you need to know about these, and that's why it's an important lesson. Most big brands work on FOB terms because they don't want to pick the goods up at the factory. They want the factory to get it to the port. And at the port, the goods can be put into containers however the big brands decide, and that's where consolidation happens. So a big brand might be working with 5 different factories, and so the factories will deliver all the goods to the port of Ho Chi Minh City and then pack it into one 20-foot container, and that way the big brands can consolidate their shipments. And it also the big brands can control the shipping price because shipping prices are changing all the time, and there's different insurances, different loading costs, and the different freight forwarding companies just have different service fees. I recommend that you work on FOB terms so that you can also not so much consolidate because you're probably doing small quantity orders. At least you can control the shipping cost. If you ask the factory to take care of shipping and they agree to do it, which most factories won't, they will sell to you on DDP or CIF terms, but basically they'll upcharge you because they're just going to outsource the shipping to one of their partner freight forwarding companies, and they're just acting as the messenger, and that's time, and time is money. So they're just going to charge you an additional fee to work with the freight forwarding company and manage all the paperwork and take responsibility in case things go wrong. So in summary, Incoterms are rules and terms that buyers and sellers use in international and domestic contracts. So if you're doing international trade, you need to know about Incoterms. And the most common one is FOB, which means free on board, and it's free on board the nearest port. So for example, in Vietnam, there's 3 major ports: Hải Phòng, Da Nang, and Ho Chi Minh. So if you're working with the factory in the north, then the price would be, say, $6 per piece, FOB, Hải Phòng port. You have a lot of options, and you're the one who decides. If you need help deciding, then contact your nearest freight forwarding company that will help you manage the shipping. In the next lesson, that's exactly what we're going to talk about, is how will you manage your shipping. See you in the next lesson.